Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
It's time for the biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, are top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport. Let's join the team for the biggest show in the world of sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.
Hello, Zimbabwe. Good to be with you after another fantastic weekend of Bundesliga action. That's going to be coming up in the second half of the show as we take a look at German football engineered in Deutschland, together with the team today, not exactly in studio, but in the comfort of their homes, to the comfort of your homes or wherever you are. The team is Barry Manandi, Chris Gray, myself, Mike Madoda. Our producer is Sean Tafirenyika. What can you look forward to on today's show? On the home front, following the decision by Rugby Africa to cancel the 2020 season, Zimbabwe Rugby Union President Aaron Jani says their focus now is to build capacity for 2021. In international sports news, Rory McIlroy will play alongside John Rum and Brooks Koepka as the world's top three players were grouped together for the first two rounds of the Charles Schwab Challenge. In Around the World in 60, we begin in New Zealand, where fans will be allowed into stadiums to watch the opening weekend of Super Rugby Aotearoa after New Zealand lifted virtually all coronavirus restrictions. In Jamaica, West Indies quick O'Shane Thomas has said he hopes to make his test debut in England next month and establish himself in all three cricket formats. And in the United States, Amanda Nunes put an exclamation point on her two-division title reign in the main event of Saturday night's UFC 250.
In the second half of the show, we bring you the beautiful game where Bayern Munich coach Hansi Flick has expressed his frustration after Robert Lewandowski and Thomas Müller earned yellow cards in the win over Bayer Leverkusen, which will rule them out of their next Bundesliga match. Marcus Rashford says Manchester United are in a much stronger position ahead of the Premier League's resumption than they were when the league was suspended in March. And in La Liga, coach Chiche Setien says Lionel Messi will be fit to play in Barcelona's first game back against Real Mallorca, despite some minor tightness in his right thigh. Of course, we bring you some news out of Serie A, where Napoli sporting director Cristiano Giuntoli has said that the club is unlikely to lower the valuation of Kalidou Koulibaly in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic.
The Warriors, the Chevrons, the Cheetahs, the Mighty Warriors, and the Sables. From the pool to the track to the field, we are Team Zimbabwe. The Home Front. Local sports news and analysis.
All right, now, following the decision by Rugby Africa to cancel the 2020 season, the Zimbabwe Rugby Union President Aaron Jani says their focus now was to build capacity for 2021. In a statement, the Continental Board said the decision to cancel all competitions follows a joint agreement with the federations. Competitions cancelled include the Rugby Africa Cup, which is supposed to get underway on the 30th of May. He had this to say, the president of the Zimbabwe Rugby Union. The information was communicated to the board and we had a discussion, and what we have decided to do, instead of wasting the time that we now have available, is to try and utilize it to catch up on the areas where we feel that we have been behind. We are doing an application to the ministry so that we will be able to conduct training and education in all the provinces. We are going to focus on building capacity for 2021. This will involve increasing the number of referees, the number of coaches, the number of medics available for the 2021 season so that we can cope better with the numbers. Those were the very eloquent words of Aaron Jani. Now, not losing ground as a result of the time that's now been availed, obviously critical to ensuring that Zimbabwe Rugby doesn't stand still and isn't in the same place that they are now come 2021. So it's the right sort of noises, but I'm keen to hear your thoughts on this, Michael. Yeah, well, he's mentioned, I think, three key facets, Barry. He talks about coaches. He also talks about referees and medics, as in those are areas that they can try and catch up on, try and, of course, improve the training of our referees so that they're able to perform competently locally, as well as maybe a few of them getting stints abroad in the different internationals that take place on the continent. We also talked, of course, of the medical side of things, which has been lagging, and I like that. But I would have also hoped that he would have talked about engaging with corporate Zimbabwe to assist in a number of areas where the Zimbabwe Rugby Union is lacking. Mainly, they don't have a lot of corporate partners, especially as far as the domestic scene is concerned. We still don't have what many people would classify as a credible domestic league or a national league, which you would see, of course, as was the case in the 90s, where we had, of course, a national competition that had the likes of Busters out in Bulawayo, the likes of Old Miltonians, Old Georgians, Old Hararians, Harare Sports Club, the likes of Beatrice, Banket, Kadoma. Those were all clubs that were taking part in a national competition that used to produce players who were good enough to take Zimbabwe to the Rugby World Cup. We were a far better nation than Namibia. We were the second best nation on the continent of Africa behind the Springboks by a long way. We wouldn't even talk about the likes of Kenya, Uganda. We were too good to compete with those countries. I remember just before 1995, nations like Wales had to stop over in Zimbabwe to warm up in Zimbabwe as they prepared for the Rugby World Cup. It just shows you with what esteem and what respect we were held in world rugby. But we can't start talking about Wales, Ireland, Australia, Argentina, and nations of that ilk if we don't have a credible domestic competition happening. And for that domestic competition to happen, Barry, the Zimbabwe Rugby Union has got to engage with corporate Zimbabwe, sell the idea, sell the league, produce the selling points that make it a credible investment and partnership for corporates in this nation.
And that corporate proposition, this is the opportune time to make it, isn't it, Chris? Because in truth, their budget has been grossly cut down because they won't have the international travel, they won't have the commitments of the tournament rugby that would have subsisted had it not been cancelled. So the budget is going to be right down there, and this would be a good time to, if any corporate is thinking of dipping their toe in the water, now's the time to engage them, isn't it?
And now's the time to do it. And Aaron Jani also mentioned that they've been allocated about 5,000 euros from the Solidarity Fund from Rugby Africa. And you take a look at that amount is not even enough to sustain, even for a club. For a club like, say, Old Georgians, Old Miltonians, whatever the case is, this money is not even enough to sustain that. And they said that this fund is actually going to be going some way to be improving the food situation, medical situation. And for me, it's definitely not enough. We need to see more of a push towards, we've been saying this, Zimbabwe Rugby needs to start looking at models for them to actually generate funds, whether it's going to corporates and asking sponsorship on whatever basis. I think this is the time to be creating those models that, say, for example, we get started with rugby again and there are no fans that are allowed in the areas. They need to have systems in place that allow for them to still be able to generate income, whether it's for the national teams themselves, whether it's for the different clubs, at whatever level. Zimbabwe Rugby needs to start thinking along the lines of sustainability and what they're going to be doing going forward, instead of almost this reactionary approach of, okay, so now we're at a standstill, maybe let's focus on getting some training and education done across the provinces, which is great, and they haven't technically stopped moving. But for me, I think they need to start looking more at sustainability. We hear things in rugby year in, year out. They've done this, they've done that, they've got this sponsor on board, but a year later, that sponsor is no longer there. They've acquired this amount of money, but we can't quite see exactly where that money's gone and how it's been used to develop Zimbabwean rugby. And so for me, we need to start thinking around sustainable models that go beyond personality, that go beyond just the relationships that exist in Zimbabwe Rugby.
And I think, Barry, that's why I talked about engaging corporate Zimbabwe, because the previous models we've had in Zimbabwe Rugby have been built on patronage. So you've had guys who like rugby, guys who love the sport, and then they organize something behind the scenes with a mate or a crony or a company they know, and to try and do something for Zimbabwe Rugby. But that's not sustainable, because you piss that guy off. What does he do? He pulls the plug on the deal. And that's what we have seen at Zimbabwe Rugby over the last couple of years. And so we've got to move away from patronage, from saying, oh, no, this guy here is a rich guy that we know. He's a rich oak and he can open doors. Because the day that you don't see eye to eye with that guy, or the day that he tries to manipulate the system, or you go against what he thinks should be the way the sport is run, you will definitely fall out and the funding will stop. So we need proper partnership, business partnerships, business sponsorships, Barry, that are predicated on performance, on a give and take, and that's the only way that the sport can move forward. Not Jema Didi Didi.
So the message from the studio team is quite clear. The first one obviously being sustainability and making sure that Zimbabwe Rugby is sustainable, but beyond that, ensuring that corporate partners are engaged, and finally breaking the buddy system, albeit that it's roundly agreed that the point and the direction of capacity building for 2021 is certainly the right way to go.
Hi, this is Benjamin Locke. I'm on the Zimbabwe Davis Cup team, and you're listening to ZiFM Sport.
Right, let's give you some local sports news on the home front, starting with tennis. Players in Zimbabwe can now return to training and recreational activities after the National Association got the green light to reopen facilities from the Sports Commission as well as the International Tennis Federation, the ITF. Tennis is among the 15 sporting disciplines considered low risk by the government and were cleared to commence the activities with effect from the 1st of June, provided they get clearance from the Sports Commission. The sporting disciplines have to strictly comply with the government directives meant to stop the spread of the coronavirus in the country. In basketball news, the Basketball Union of Zimbabwe, BUZZ, are ready to embrace the spectacle that is 3-on-3 basketball as a means of moving up the global ladder in terms of appeal and success. This follows news of the country being granted rights to host the 4th edition of the Under-23 International Basketball Federation 3x3 Young Lions Cup, slated to run from the 2nd to the 7th of December in Bulawayo. The tournament is expected to act as dress rehearsal for the Africa Championships in Uganda, where the country is expected to send the under-18 teams, including senior men and women teams. And we wrap it up with football news, where the ZIFA Appeals Committee is adamant that ZIFA Vice President Gift Banda must be reinstated to his position, despite the association's lawyer Chenai Moyo Gumiro claiming the Bulawayo businessman remained suspended. Banda, who was suspended 1 month into office in January 2019, faced a cocktail of charges from his executive committee colleagues, which included usurping powers of the executive committee as enshrined in section 34K of the ZIFA Constitution that delegate the sole responsibility of appointing national team coaches and other technical staff to the ZIFA Executive Committee and not to individuals.
Hi, this is Mike Madura, and you can catch me and the team for all the latest breaking news out of the world of sport, local as well as international, on your favorite station, my station, your station, ZiFM. We are Z-Team on ZiFM Sport.
Z. From the front of the grid to the back of the net, it's ZiFM Sport. International Sports News Roundup, where the world comes out to play.
International sports news, Rory McIlroy will play alongside John Rahm and Brooks Koepka as the world's top 3 players were grouped together for the first 2 rounds of the Charles Schwab Challenge. The Marquee 3-ball will headline the featured group coverage from a Colonial Country Club in Texas as the PGA Tour returns to competition for the first time since the enforced shutdown of worldwide sport due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We saw golf come back, with a couple of charity challenges that featured the likes of Tiger Woods, Phil Mickelson, Rory McIlroy was involved in one, Dustin Johnson was also involved in it. I think it was sort of like a test for what was to come. They went fairly well. They raised a lot of money, but now this is the real deal. This is the PGA Tour returning. It won't be with fans, but at least the action will be underway, Barry.
Yeah, it's a good thing that the action will be underway, and I think as you say, the charity games gave us a picture and showed us the fact that golf can return safely without any issues. And the great thing is that now we're having proper competition, and in truth, these 3 balls are going to raise a lot of excitement amongst the golfing public, and that trio that you just announced is an amazing 3-ball on the basis that you've got 2 bombers and John Ram. I feel sorry for him because he's got 2 guys who can bomb it 300 yards at a canter, and then he's going to be playing catch-up, I'm afraid.
Chris, I'm just taking a look at some of the featured groups that were announced by the PGA Tour. I'm taking a look at Justin Thomas paired with, or should I say grouped with Ricky Fowler and Jordan Spieth. That's another marquee group. Then you got Bryson DeChambeau with DJ, Dustin Johnson and Justin Rose. It looks like there was a lot of thought that was put in this because there are no crowds, there are no fans at the course. So they're making sure that this will be good viewing and this will have the attention of television viewers.
Absolutely. And what they've done as well in terms of the media approach to it, you've got, Brooks Koepka coming out to say, you know what, I've been on the tour for 5 years and Rory McIlroy hasn't won anything. He's saying some very controversial statements because this is one of his friends. There's also a thought that was put, I think, into grouping people who generally are friends and they get along. Ricky Fowler, Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas, all good friends. And then there's also, the fit guys in golf, Bryson DeChambeau, Dustin Johnson, Justin Rose. These guys are all really good friends and, they have similar interests. So I think that adds another dimension to the game as well. Besides the fact that, look, there's going to be no fans. What they've done is add that element of excitement and thought to the grouping such that you have people who get along. You have, people who have similar interests in the groups.
Now, Chris has just thrown a thought into my head. And this is that, listen, there are no fans, and I think it will be an even bigger TV spectacle. Might be controversial, but why not mic them up?
Yeah, but maybe one step at a time for golf. But I think it works. It'll be good. Generally, we do get to hear quite a bit of what golfers say, though. It may not be everything, but they do occasionally allow us to sort of listen in on some of the conversations, especially conversations between a player and his caddy. We get to hear quite a bit in terms of the thought process when it comes to the selection of clubs, distance, and approach. So it would be good, Barry, if they added that bit extra because there are no fans and this is sort of like for TV. So it would be really good if we got to hear more from what the golfers are saying out on the course. So very interesting. Just before we move on, Barry, I wanted to get to hear your thoughts on Phil Mickelson because he's now just about to touch 50. He's nudging 50. He's in that zone where he's possibly transitioning himself out of the regular PGA Tour into the seniors tour now because he's at that age. How long can Phil Mickelson stay relevant in the regular PGA Tour, Barry? Is it just a pride thing that'll keep him hanging around? Because in the last couple of years, he really hasn't been a factor at the majors.
Yeah, no, he's done. Let's be fair and honest, and it's been a case where Lefty can put together 2 good rounds, have a shambolic third, and then try and catch up on the Sunday, and very often it's not happening. So for me, it's now a case of us. This is his victory lap, and I think we should all applaud a great servant of the game. But certainly, I think it's time for him to join the Nick Prices of this world and head off to the seniors tour.
And of course, interesting that 101 of the world's top 148 competitors are going to be in the field in this particular competition, minus perhaps the biggest draw card as far as golf is concerned, Tiger Woods. He won't be featuring, but hey, all golf fans certainly will be sitting in front of their televisions to watch this fantastic tournament featuring the world's leading players.
Hi, my name's Ryan Cairns, Sunshine Tour professional golfer, and you're listening to ZiFM Sport.
Around the world in 60 seconds. International sports news.
We take off in New Zealand, where fans will be allowed into stadiums to watch the opening weekend of the Super Rugby at Aroa after New Zealand lifted virtually all coronavirus restrictions. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern announced New Zealand will move to alert level 1 from midnight, under which life returns to almost normal, although border restrictions remain in force. There will be no restrictions on the size of crowds for the first weekend of matches. The Highlanders face the Chiefs in Dunedin on Saturday, while the Blues take on the Hurricanes in Auckland on Sunday. We head over to Jamaica, where West Indies quick O'Shane Thomas has said he hopes to make his Test debut in England next month and establish himself in all 3 cricket formats. Thomas has been named among 11 reserves to accompany the 14-member squad for their 3 Test series in England, which is scheduled to take place in biosecure venues in Southampton and Manchester, subject to government approval. Thomas, who played in 21 days and 12 T20 internationals, says he has the backing of coach Bill Simmons. We touched down in the US, where Amanda Nunes put an exclamation point on her 2-division title reign in the main event of Saturday night's UFC 250. Nunes, who also holds the UFC women's bantamweight crown, which she has defended 5 times successfully, defended the 145-pound title with a prolonged beating of Felicia Spencer at UFC Apex. The fight with Spencer's corner could have stopped up to the 3rd round, was one of the most one-sided title fights in recent memories. Nunes' unanimous decision victory left little doubt that she's the best women's fighter the UFC has ever seen.
Hi, my name is Rune Shamba, Mytoria's super striker. You're listening to ZiFM Sports.
The big leagues, the big teams, the big players. The beautiful game on ZiFM Sport. Horsepower unmatched. Torque to beat the best. Speed unrivaled. Sleek and easy on the eye. Let's get behind the wheel of football engineered to perfection. The Bundesliga, made in Germany.
Right now, Bayern Munich coach Hansi Flick has expressed his frustration after Robert Lewandowski and Thomas Müller earned yellow cards in the win over Bayern Leverkusen, which will rule them out of their next Bundesliga match. Despite falling behind early on, Bayern rallied and ultimately ran out comfortable 4-2 winners, with Kingsley Coman, Leon Goretzka, Serge Gnabry and Lewandowski on target. However, both of Bayern's key men were booked, meaning they will miss next weekend's visit of Borussia Mönchengladbach. Although Bayern have a commanding lead at the summit, Flick did not hide his irritation at having the pair ruled out. Hansi Flick, he has been the tonic at Bayern Munich, certainly has, and Lewandowski has been immense under Hansi Flick. Before we hear the thoughts of the in-studio team, Bayern Munich fullback Alphonso Davies says he calls Thomas Müller the chef.
Yeah, Thomas Müller is, I call him Chef Chef Thomas Müller. You know, he gives you assists, he gives you goals, whatever you need. I mean, he's a big part of the team, and him setting a record, you know, it's an amazing achievement for him. Yeah, we're excited. I think it's 4 games left. So yeah, each game we just want to take it step by step. We know at the end of the road, you know, there's something there for us. So we just want to keep fighting and keep striving for that.
Now, Thomas Müller himself brought his tally to 20 assists for the season after teeing up Goretzka and Lewandowski. Lewandowski himself has now equaled his personal best of 30 goals in a single season, having also done so in 2015-2016, 2016-2017. The 31-year-old has now 44 goals in 38 games in all comps this term, a figure that is also a personal best. He's putting up some pretty big numbers, and so is Thomas Müller, or Lewandowski and Müller. And to miss them in the next game, Hansi Flick, you can understand his frustration, Chris.
Absolutely. If you take a look at where they are now, in as much as they do have that 6-point buffer from Borussia Dortmund, I think that this is at a point where they want to be able to win every match and close out the season as soon as possible. Basically, they need, I think it's 2 more games for them to be able to seal out the season. So I think his frustration is that they're on a canter, they're on a winning streak, and he wants to maintain that. He wants to be able to grab this thing as soon as possible. And the fact that these 2 are out may have an impact on their next game. And look, fine, it's a home game, but we all know home and away, it doesn't really matter anymore. And this could have an impact on the rest of their run.
We've discussed the players, and the players have shown up, Mike, and Lewandowski, Thomas Muller, your Kingsley Coman of this world. All the players seem to have really taken to Hansi Flick's methods. The one man who we haven't discussed is Hansi Flick, and he has been immense since being promoted to being head coach after they sacked the last one. So this is the man who was hiding in the shadows, but has shown that he's well capable of running this team and running it very, very well, because they're scoring goals, they're an attacking side, and they're getting good results.
Yeah, I think what Hansi Flick came in and did was he did the fairly obvious, Barry, was you play to your players' strengths. He didn't overthink it. You've got one of the best number 9s in world football, one of the best number 9s of this last decade in Robert Lewandowski. You've got a genuine number 10. There are very few number 10s, genuine number 10s left in world football. There are many players that wear the number 10 shirt, but they don't know what that role is all about. Thomas Muller is a genuine number 10. He's a support striker. He's a creative striker, capable of getting the odd goal here and there, but who's tasked primarily with creating chances for his strike partner. You know, the way that Francesco Totti and Alessandro Del Piero used to do it, or Teddy Sheringham when he was at Manchester United. And he's found that. So what has he done? He's just looked for 2 really good wide players. And so he's got Coleman and he's got Gnabry, who will play as the wide players, providing the crosses. He's also playing with 2 flying fullbacks as well, in terms of the young man from Canada, Alphonso Davies as well, who's provided the width. And so it means that this is where I'm going to be slightly controversial and say a lot of people are talking up Robert Lewandowski. I admire his goal-scoring abilities. But I've heard recent talk of him being, Ballon d'Or contender.
No.
I want to say, if you took, for example, a decent striker, you take Marcus Rashford, and you put him into that Bayern Munich setup, would he score any less than Robert Lewandowski? I don't think so. I think he would match him goal for goal, because it's the type of team that's built around creating opportunities for you to score. And he's doing exactly that. So he is a target man, a good one. He's an efficient striker. And so Hansi Flick, that's what he came in and did. He just set up the team right to get the best out of his players. He didn't overthink it. He just set up a basic system. And he's now getting the best out of his 2 most influential players. Because Thomas Muller, the last couple of seasons, in truth, he looked lost. Lost his place in the German national team, lost his place in the Bayern Munich team as well. But now he's managed to get the best out of him. And once you do that, I think you'll be able to go on a winning run, because they've got too much quality at Bayern Munich, and they're far better than the opposition in that league.
Yeah, and they're running out. And you've got to think to yourself now that you quite early pointed out, Chris, that 2 wins away from sealing the Bundesliga title are Bayern Munich. And in truth, you've got to think to yourself, that one is sealed. They're likely to complete that move. They must now be looking at taking this form that they are in into the Champions League and making a good run for it. They're still in the competition. It is a cup competition, so they still got a good chance of making a good run of it. In midweek, they play in the DFB Pokal. They've got a real crack at going for the treble, and now that they've sealed the first one, Hansi Flick will have that in the back of his mind, and he would have wanted Muller and Lewandowski to stay as sharp as they can. Possibly, this is another place where the frustration is coming from.
Absolutely. I think because they're on such a good trajectory, they're on a winning run, and everything is within reach for them. I think the frustration comes from possibly not being able to achieve some of those goals simply because these 2 are out. And in as much as we can talk about Bayern Munich, look, it's a machine. He's built up a machine, but the impact these 2 players have had and the impact they could have in the DFB Pokal is pretty immense, and it's immense enough for him to be frustrated at the fact that they won't be able to participate.
Can I just come in and say, though, that I'm a bit concerned, though, with him worrying about the absence of these players, because if you can't beat Borussia Mönchengladbach without Lewandowski and Thomas Müller, then I think you can't challenge for the Champions League. Man City looks like they got 1 foot in the quarterfinals. That's a team to watch out for because they're desperate. They need to win. That's the one big trophy that they can win. The Premier League title is gone. And then you go Barcelona. Real Madrid look like they're on their way out. So great opportunity for Bayern Munich to win that treble. They've only won it once. Only Barcelona has ever done the treble twice in Europe. So they've got a wonderful opportunity to match Barcelona in terms of that unique achievement. I mean, the other clubs celebrate winning the treble. Barcelona has done it twice. Bayern Munich can do that again if they win this season. But you've got to be able to perform without your best players. Especially against opposition that you are able to beat, because you've got to bring in players off the bench. This is when the bench is tested. This is not about for you to win a competition at the Champions League, it's not about your 11. You've got to be able to have players who come off the bench. Liverpool versus Barcelona last season, that famous comeback win. Mohamed Salah, our best player, suspended. Who stepped up? Origi, scored 2 goals. What more can you ask of a player? That's what Bayern Munich has got to look to now and say, okay, this is an opportunity for someone to step up off the bench in the DFB Pokal and in the league and try and deliver so that we keep these good players ready and fit for the big games when they're needed.
Well, the point there is that it certainly is a squad game. Remember, Bobby Firmino not available for that Barcelona game against Liverpool in that semi-final last season as well, and Liverpool managing to go all the way to the final. Okay, enough gratuitous speaking on the show. Let's get back to Germany, where Borussia Dortmund, in other news, Borussia Dortmund held on for a 1-0 win against Hertha Berlin on a rainy night at the Westfalenstadion to keep pace with Bundesliga leaders Bayern Munich. In other news, captain Christian Strodig netted a dramatic stoppage time equalizer to earn last place Paderborn a 1-1 draw away at high-flying RB Leipzig and keep alive their faint hopes of avoiding relegation. And the 10-man Borussia Mönchengladbach suffered a 1-0 defeat at Freiburg after substitute Niels Petersen's superb second-half header dented their Champions League qualifying hopes in a lively game. The Bundesliga weekend fixtures and results are like this. Eintracht Frankfurt beaten at home by Mainz 2-0. Fortuna Düsseldorf and Hoffenheim playing out a 2-2 draw. Werder Bremen defeated by Wolfsburg 1-0, denting their hopes of surviving relegation. Union Berlin 1-1 draw with Schalke, and Augsburg played out a 1-1 draw with Cologne. Schalke's winless streak has stretched now to 12 games. You got to think that David Wagner, his position at Schalke is tenuous at best. The league looks like this. Bayern Munich atop 70 points, 7 points ahead of Borussia Dortmund, who are on 63. RB Leipzig occupy third Champions League spot, 59 points they have amassed. Borussia Mönchengladbach is in that final fourth Champions League qualifying position with 56 points, equal with Bayer Leverkusen, but with a superior goal difference.
All the rivalry.
Here is Harry Kane for Tottenham. Oh, what a goal! A classic derby goal from Harry Kane. Catch him if you can.
All the stars.
Oh, back here's Liverpool 2 in front. Talk about impudence. Talk about improvisation. Talk about Sadio Mane.
And all the game-changing moments.
And Raheem Sterling rattles it home. And once more, City are in front in a trice.
All the updates from the Premier League on ZiFM Sport.
News out of England is that Marcus Rashford says Manchester United are in a much stronger position ahead of the Premier League's resumption than they were when the league was suspended in March. Before the coronavirus outbreak put a halt to proceedings, United were in good form, having gone unbeaten in the previous 11 matches in all competitions. The break has allowed Rashford to recover from the back injury that kept him out of the majority of those games, and he's now ready to help United pick up where they left off in their first match in over 3 months away to Tottenham next. Interesting this one, and an interesting match, in fact, for Manchester United to sort of like try and get their competition or their quest for Champions League football back on track, and Tottenham themselves have come out, and there's been a lot of fighting talk out of Tottenham, talking about the fact that they feel that if they win 8 out of 9, they'll qualify for the Champions League. So this is going to be a do or die encounter for both teams. Manchester United full bill of health. Tottenham as well. Son has come back from military training. Harry Kane is now fit. Dele Alli is now fit. So clean bill of health on both sides. But United certainly will be encouraged, Barry, with the form that they carried into the coronavirus break, and will be hoping to pick up where they left from.
Yeah, let me quote Donald Trump. There are good people on both sides. And that makes for a very entertaining fixture I foresee, because Manchester United, as you said, in good form. We'll talk a little bit more about them just now, but Tottenham themselves looking good value. Manchester United, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, yes, 11 matches in all comps unbeaten, but you look at it and you think to yourself, now with all the other teams coming back with a full bill of health, and also United going into a tough run of fixtures. Take note that in those 11 games, they only played, I think, 2 of the top 6. So you think to yourself, now is the time that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's methods, this run of form, and his transformation of Manchester United is truly going to be tested. It starts with a tricky tie against a Tottenham side that has a clean bill of health, as you quite rightly pointed out. But would they have rather played Tottenham later than sooner? I think they'd have rather sooner, because both teams are an unknown quantity and anything can happen.
Well, Tottenham certainly know that they can't afford to lose this match. The benefit of winning for Tottenham will be that they sort of like draw within a point of Manchester United, who are currently in 5th place, just 1 point, I think, behind, 3 points behind Chelsea, who occupy that 4th place. Chris, what makes things tricky is that there is the hope that 5th may qualify a team for the Champions League, but that's all dependent on the outcome of Manchester City's court case at the Court for Arbitration for Sport. And there are no guarantees there, because we have seen previously teams able to get away with lesser punishments and maybe with a fine. So the trick to qualifying would have to be to finish in 4th place, which means that they still can't afford to lose this game or even draw this game, because Chelsea is the team that United must catch to make sure that they qualify for the Champions League.
Absolutely. That chasing pack is quite close. Chelsea's got 48, Manchester United 45, Wolves 43, Sheffield 43, and then Tottenham on 41. So those points are really close together. It's a difference of 1 or 2 matches that'll see a team either qualify or not qualify for the Champions League. So there can be no slip-ups for Manchester United. I think if you're looking at the fact that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wants to build this team, he wants to get particular types of players, that Champions League qualification is a big draw card that they could use, and failing to get it could further hamper. It's going to be another season where they can't get the type of players that they would want, and it's going to impact basically their trajectory. It's going to take a lot longer for Manchester United to get back to where we can say Manchester United is, challenging. So at this point, this is absolutely critical. They need to win basically every match from here on out.
Barry, very few people talking about Arsenal in this race for the Champions League spot. But just taking a look at where they stand, they got 1 game in hand. Problem is the game in hand is versus Man City, the champions. So
that's a pretty big problem.
Yeah, and that's a pretty big. It's not going to be easy for them. But should they win that game, Arsenal will be right in the hunt for a Champions League place.
There will be, and in truth, you say nobody's talking about Arsenal. Even Arsenal fans aren't talking about Arsenal. But for me, I think that Arsenal is primed. If ever there was going to be a dream, fairy tale, a romantic story of a team making a charge up the table in the hands of a former son of the team, a former captain of the team, Mikel Arteta, I think Arsenal are primed to be that romantic story of the season. And in truth, it may just start, is it next Wednesday or Thursday, when they take on Manchester City. I think that if they are able to get a result in that, they're going to go all the way, because the football, yes, it's a squad game. Yes, it's a game of 2 halves, but it's also a momentum game. And if they gain that momentum, get that inertia going, I don't see Arsenal being able to be stopped.
All right, I'm going to give you guys a fascinating stat, which prompted me to ask that about Arsenal, and I think it's probably sort of like blows away a lot of social media theories. The form book right now, as it stands in the English Premier League, the last 5 matches before the season stopped, Liverpool, 12 points from 5 matches. They lost to Watford. So Liverpool got the most points. Manchester United got the second highest amount of points, right? 11 points. Third, Arsenal.
There we go.
Also got 11 points in that run.
Yeah.
So Arsenal look like they've turned a corner. You know, I'm surprised that a lot of people are not talking about it, or they still talk of Arsenal, I think, in terms of how things were 15 games ago. But the truth is, Mikel Arteta seems to have put in the work and it's beginning to show and it's beginning to tell. I hear reports that they played Charlton Athletic in a closed doors friendly, thumped them 6-0.
Yeah, so I saw highlights of that. They looked absolutely imperious. And in truth, Charlton is one of the top championship sides. They're thereabouts.
Blown away.
And they were blown away 6-0. They were shown that there's a gulf in class. And if you see those sort of green shoots, you can certainly agree that Arsenal are a formidable team under Mikel Arteta. The problem is you've got that huge shadow of Arsene Wenger still hanging over the Emirates. And unfortunately, it's going to take a long while before we see that dissipate.
Okay, let's just give you a quick update. Manchester City are preparing for one of the biggest weeks in the club's history with the appeal against a 2-year ban from European competition starting at the Court of Arbitration for Sport today. City will miss out on the prestige of playing in the Champions League for the next 2 seasons and estimated revenues of £200 million unless they convince 3 judges in the 3-day video conference hearing that they have not broken UEFA's financial fair play rules. So, this week, absolutely critical for Manchester City and, more importantly, critical for the teams that are pursuing Champions League football.
The league that makes football oh so beautiful, where artistry and strokes of genius are the order of any day, where the game is played with a smile and the little master creates his magic.
It's Lionel Messi!
All the news from the Spanish La Liga on ZiFM Sport.
The goal the world wanted!
Coach Chiche Setien says Lionel Messi will be fit to play in Barcelona's first game back against Real Mallorca despite some minor tightness in his right thigh. Messi trained alone on Saturday at Camp Nou after sitting out the team's previous 2 sessions, raising doubts over his involvement in the trip to Mallorca on Saturday. But when asked whether Messi would play the next weekend, Setien told Movistar on Sunday, Messi is not the only one that has not trained and felt some discomfort. It's what's happened to everyone, or practically everyone, since they've been back. Mike, Lionel Messi getting the nod there from Chiche Setien about his return. Would a Barcelona without Lionel Messi still be able to finish off this run and be able to win La Liga?
It's difficult to say because I think the opposition in La Liga has been poor. Real Madrid has been dropping points. Atletico Madrid has been inconsistent. So a lot would have to depend on the form that is exhibited by the opposition. But if Lionel Messi is fit, let's just say Barcelona, I think, go on and win La Liga. It's that simple. It's assured. It's certain. I don't think there's enough for Barcelona to be worried about. I think it's just a bit of a tightness in his hamstring. I think he will be available to play, and they will certainly be hoping that he's there until the end of the season.
The Nerazzurri, the Black and Blues, Inter Milan.
It's Romelu Lukaku, and it was never in doubt. He's a beast at the best of times, but this season he has become a monster.
The Giallorossi, the Yellow and Reds, AS Roma.
Belotti has a go! Tremendous hits! That's what he's capable of!
La Viola, the Purple Ones, Fiorentina.
Brock Ribery seals a glorious win for Fiorentina with a sumptuous goal at San Siro.
The Bianconeri, the Black and Whites, Juventus.
Ronaldo seals yet another 3 points for Juventus.
Tough yet colourful. The best of Italian football on Z.
A quick update for you out of Serie A. Napoli sporting director Cristiano Giuntoli has said that the club are unlikely to lower their valuation of Kalidou Koulibaly in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic. The Senegal international joined the Naples outfit from Genk in the summer of 2014, and over the past 6 years, he has built his reputation as one of the world's best performing centre-backs. In recent months, it has been suggested that the club would be open to sanctioning the defender's sale for a lesser fee than the reported £100 million price tag, particularly with the financial impact of the coronavirus pandemic.
That news of Kalidou Koulibaly bringing us to a close on the show. We'll catch you tomorrow, 5 after 6. Don't miss it. May God richly bless you. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Menande, out.